buy one, get two sale is happening now at Theory Sabers. Use code FREEDOM. Every single Pixel Saber will get you 2 free beginner sabers in your box. Details at theorysabers.com. Go right now and grab yours. Any one of our beautiful Pixel Sabers will get you 2 free beginner sabers in your box. Limited right now.
Fulfill your destiny. TheorySabers.com.
So apparently George Lucas wanted Obi-Wan to leave Tatooine to go to Darth Maul and fight him on Coruscant in between episode 3 and 4. Let's talk about it. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Star Wars Underworld, George Lucas's canceled Star Wars TV show? We have some new information today regarding the Underworld show, which had like 50 episodes already pretty much ready to go before George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney. And this is what The Mandalorian was really inspired by, and so on and so forth. Now that Andor has finished its 2-season run to universal acclaim, fans have been thinking about what's next for Star Wars TV shows. Granted, we've got plenty to look forward to, such as an upcoming Ahsoka Season 2 and several Star Wars movies in development. But there's still hope, however small, that Disney looks to a project shelved a long time ago, from a concept far, far away. The Lucasfilm of 2005 was a different beast compared to where we are now in 2025. Say that again. Soon after the debut of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, creator George Lucas announced at an event that the franchise's first live-action foray into TV would be Underworld. Set between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, this series was meant to delve into a Star Wars world that didn't revolve around the Skywalkers. Instead, it would have been based in the cityscape of Coruscant, initially focusing on the criminal gangs, before delving into untold stories of known characters. So after Lucasfilm was bought in 2012, this meant that some changes were made, such as Underworld being canceled, along with its video game adaptation, Star Wars 1313, which you guys remember had a really great trailer and cinematic gameplay, but it was scrapped, and it was pretty much almost done, and George was extremely hands-on with that game, apparently. But what was Star Wars Underworld? Who was involved, and how far into production did it get? So pretty much when they were like done making the game, George was like, we should have this be about Boba Fett. And he had that idea, and he's like, you know what? It needs to be about Boba Fett. So that's what it started to focus on. In 2005, it looked like the end of the road for Star Wars, with no more movies or live-action shows on the horizon. It felt like Lucas and his company wanted to move on, with the team beginning to work on the then-unannounced 4th Indiana Jones movie. So it was a surprise when Underworld was announced in 2005, alongside the Clone Wars. Allegedly set between episode 3 and 4, with some occasional flashback episodes, the series would delve into aspects of the Star Wars universe that hadn't been explored before, such as different criminal factions operating across Coruscant. Underworld would be serialized episodes with roughly 20 of them to a season, and would be full of special effects as the prequels were. Rick McCallum, a producer at Lucasfilm until his retirement in 2012, soon after Disney bought it, appeared on a podcast earlier this year called Young Indie Chronicles. In this 3-part interview, McCallum recalled how far Underworld came in development. There was a period where people thought we weren't doing anything, and we spent 5 years doing over 60 scripts, some reaching third drafts, with the most wonderful writers in the world on them. These stories were dark, but they were sexy, they were violent, they made you think, and they were just absolutely wonderful. Wow, look at that. That's cool. In an interview with writer Matthew Graham at Den of Geek, he reveals that from 2007 for several years, he and Chris Chibnall would visit Skywalker Ranch and work on several scripts for Underworld. Interesting. Ronald D. Moore, known for writing Star Trek and the Battlestar Galactica reboot, was also brought on soon after. Moore spoke about this in actor Katie Sackhoff's podcast earlier this year, explaining what happened when he met Lucas to talk about Underworld in 2009. Up to 60 scripts were written, enough for 4 seasons. Rumored plots will sound eerily familiar to anyone who's watched the last 10 years of Star Wars TV shows. The early years of the Empire under Emperor Palpatine, how Han Solo and Lando Calrissian met, a Boba Fett appearance, Obi-Wan Kenobi appearing in Coruscant before a final duel with Maul, and more.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So, what's the most interesting out of this is that George Lucas was going to have Obi-Wan Kenobi show up on Coruscant when he was supposed to be stationed on Tatooine in order to fight Darth Maul. That's kind of... I don't know how I feel about this, man. I know a lot of people will be like, no, the last time they met was on Mustafar, him and Vader. Look, man, I am a firm believer If George were to come out tomorrow and change something entirely about Star Wars, that's the way it is. That's the level of respect you have to have for George, that he created this whole thing and he can change what he wants on a dime.
Kermit the Frog with Miss Piggy. This is actually the illegitimate child of Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy.
Oh, man.
And don't let it get out, because if that hits the National Enquirer, we're all dead.
So as late as January 2012, McCollum and Lucas were both talking about Underworld, saying that it was on the shelf for now, but everything was about to change. Kind of looks like The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens concept art. As 2012 was wrapping up, two insurmountable walls arose to block Underworld: money and Disney. As McCollum said in the podcast, the episodes were simply too expensive to make at the time. The problem was that each episode was bigger than the film, so the lowest I could get it down to with each episode that existed was $40 million an episode. Don't forget Andor, dude.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly?
I mean, Andor was what, 24 episodes, 750 million? Yeah, no, that's about roughly the same. Yeah, that's like 30 to 40 million an episode. But back then would have been much more due to inflation. But yeah, that's expensive. So Underworld was swept under the rug, at least until the episodes could be made at a cheaper rate, which today I'm sure they could be. Meanwhile, Lucas was busy writing his own take on episode 7, 8, and 9 before ultimately deciding to hand off his empire to the House of Mouse. Although Disney could have made Underworld as well as Lucas's vision of the sequel trilogy, time has shown us the company took a different path with the franchise. Yeah. Years later, the only surviving test footage of Underworld was uncovered, showcasing 5 minutes of a scene set in Coruscant, or as Qui-Gon likes to say, Coruscant. As a way of trying out the visual effects for how they could work in Underworld, it's nothing much and doesn't add anything to the overall franchise, but it's a unique look into what could have been. Yeah, when we've all seen this. You know, could it return? Of course it could return. Anything could return.
Impossible to see. The future is.
Do I trust Disney to make it? God, no. I mean, if you go back 4 or 5 years on the channel, you'll see me extremely excited like a little boy whenever Disney would announce something new. And it breaks my heart that at this point, I just don't care anymore.
Obi-Wan was right. You've changed.
You know, when they announce things, I'm like, oh yeah, great, you're going to mess that up too. It's such a horrible place to be for Star Wars. But at the same time, it's like, you always hope that it's going to be good. There's that little glimmer of like, I hope, you know, because there have been some things that have been great. Tales of the Jedi I really enjoyed. Not so much the Ahsoka episodes, but more so the Dooku episodes. What was it? Tales of the Underworld. I really enjoyed that too. But besides that, you know, Mando Season 1 I thought was really, really great. Mando Season 2, I really enjoyed that as well a lot. And Jedi Fallen Order, loved that one. Outlaws. $160 early gameplay. You get the feeling with Lucasfilm and its current CEO, Kathleen Kennedy, that story takes precedence before anything is greenlit, which is likely how we got the incredible Andor series. I laugh because it's like everything takes precedence, and they choose one show that ended up really good. And I had my qualms with Andor in the beginning, but I am definitely mature enough to acknowledge that I was incorrect. Incorrect. And once it got to the end of it, man, they were actually some of the best Disney Star Wars that has been released, for sure. That really rounds out Rogue One, and I think really adds to the overall world expansion of Star Wars, the world building. It's also one of the last things Lucas worked on before he decided to sell to Disney, so Underworld is only going to become more mythical as time passes. Combine this with his early ideas for what he had in mind for the sequel trilogy, such as Darth Maul becoming the new big bad, and suddenly you wonder how things could have been different. And that's very true, is because his original idea, well, not original idea, his final idea for the sequel trilogy was to have Darth Maul return. There was a power vacuum in the galaxy since Palpatine had now died and the Empire had crumbled. Everyone was fighting for power, you know, different factions, whether it be the Hutts or just random stormtroopers loyal to the Emperor now wanting their own power, or crime syndicates, Maul. And Maul would rise, he would train Darth Talon, which I'm wondering if we're going to get any allusion to that in the Darth Maul cartoon show coming out, animated show. And then Luke was supposed to band together a group of new Jedi for a new Jedi Order, and Leia was supposed to rise to a massive political power. And Han Solo wasn't going to be a deadbeat dad like he was in The Force Awakens, but, you know, leave it to Disney to essentially destroy every single accomplished male character so that they could bolster any of their new characters, which I don't know why it has to be like that. You can keep them both extremely amazing and then pass the torch on, which will only make you respect the new ones more. But Kathleen Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the standard, what would George do?
Combine this with his early ideas for what, yes. So if he had put Maul in there for the show and Obi-Wan to meet him on Coruscant to kill him, I mean, we would have had Nick Gillard come back for sure, which would have been amazing. But then what would we have for his sequel trilogy, right? He couldn't be able to do that, so he would have to do something different. I wonder what that would be. I wonder who he would have as a replacement for the big bad, as Maul. You know, maybe Talon would come in, but there would be someone else as well. There's always a chance the series could return in some way and or prove that a Star Wars show can thrive without relying on legacy characters, and Underworld seemingly ticked a lot of similar boxes, just in a different way. As it stands, around 60 almost complete scripts would be given a light revision and possibly a light revision, dude. Disney would like comb through George's script and probably just literally change everything.
And at the same time, it's you know, how do democracies turn back into dictatorships? Why do people who have the power to have the freedom and everything turn it over to somebody who's going to take it all away from them?
Just make it worse. It's like what they did with Stuart Beattie's Kenobi trilogy. They just took segments of it, gave it to Joby Harold. He just made it absolute garbage. And then you hired Deborah Chow, and she just really did a piss poor job of directing the whole thing. Visually, thematically, cutting, pacing, everything. It was just ass. I don't trust this company. I don't. They lack vision. They lack passion. They're very money motivated, which is great, but they need to be story driven first. Or at least, you know, hand off the keys to the story people. Not like they did to Rian Johnson, but people who actually respect George and his story, and listen to the OG actors like Mark Hamill, and then sit back and watch the money just pile in because they created something that Star Wars fans like. You can't create a Star Wars project if you're not a real Star Wars fan. And I don't mean just like, oh yeah, that's the I Am Your Father guy. No, that's not how this works. I'm not saying you need to read every single Star Wars book, but you need to know those 6 movies like the back of your hand. You need to understand the mythology of it, the cadence, the acting, the dialogue, the look, the transitions, everything. You need to study it to a T. Ultimately, Star Wars Underworld remains a big what could have been in the franchise history, but it's also clearly been the inspiration behind some of the amazing shows we've got in recent years. Well, yeah, I mean, Star Wars, George Lucas' Star Wars has been the inspiration for everything that Disney's done, obviously, in Star Wars, because it's Star Wars. I'm wondering if we will get it. And I could see Disney being so... Oh, geez. Would it really be George's, though? I mean, imagine this. Imagine they announce we're going to create Star Wars Underworld, and they bring George on to direct them. That would be crazy. I don't even know if George would be down for that, but that would be something. You want to win some fans back? You bring him on stage at Star Wars Celebration and say that, and we have our director, and you have George walk out. The Star Wars stock will literally go from this to just freaking straight, not even like at an angle, just shot into the sky. Guaranteed. Would they do it though? Probably not. They're too egotistical. Would George come back for it? Probably not. Never say never, but how cool would that be? Anyways, I think it's rather interesting that George would have had Maul and Obi-Wan fight on Coruscant sometime between episode 3 and 4. I wonder how he would have had Obi-Wan leave Luke, because he was supposed to be there. I wonder if he would have had him meet Vader at all. But, you know, I don't know if we'll ever know. I hope we do. I hope that we blow up the Underworld hashtag or whatever it might be to the freaking stratosphere, and we make it extremely popular so that Disney is like, okay, you know what? Maybe there's some money in this. Maybe we actually need to make this, you know, for fans. Not that they care about us, but, you know, for people who actually will purchase their stuff. I think that would be really cool. Hashtag Star Wars Underworld. I think if we have enough buzz around this, just like they did Deadpool with fans essentially willing it into existence, we can create a lot of buzz. And I think if we do that, look, studios want easy money, right? They don't want to have to do all these like test screenings. Be like, oh, will this show work? Will that show work? What if you already have a consensus of the fandom that really wants this and there's enough buzz around it? They're going to make it. They're going to bring George back. They could bring him back. Not that he would come, but it just, I'm dreaming, man. I'm a dreamer. Cuff me. You know, hey, I just want good Star Wars at the end of the day. But, yeah, that's my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think. Would you want Obi-Wan to ever have left Tatooine? Or see where my head's at? I don't even count Kenobi as canon. I don't. The first 6 for me are canon. Everything else is EU. Not even. It's like EU. Let me know what you guys think. Have a great day. Leave a like on this vid, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.